you making?
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Today I'm gonna show you how to make yellow starchy garri at home. To make this garri, you only need 2 ingredients: palm oil and cassava. I'm gonna start by peeling the cassava. This is how you peel cassava. You can peel your cassava this way, and I'm gonna show you another way to peel cassava. So it has a very thick skin like the bark of a tree. So you have to peel it deeper than the way you would peel potato or yam. After peeling the cassava, it is advisable to cut the cassava into little chunks if you are blending the cassava at home. And do not forget to remove that stringy core. In case you are not comfortable with the first way of peeling cassava, this is another way to peel cassava. Just cut the cassava into smaller sizes, then split each into 2. Follow the natural line and peel it off. It is that easy. If this is your first time on my channel, or you are a returning viewer and you are not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel by clicking on the subscribe button and on the notification bell so that you can get an alert whenever I post a video. Like and share the video. Thank you and God bless you. When I'm done, I'm gonna rinse the cassava before blending it. So let me explain what I'm doing right here. I'm going to be using only 4 cups of water to blend everything. I'm going to be adding the water gradually, then add more cassava after the first batch is being blended. When you do it like this, it reduces the amount of water needed to blend it. On the other hand, if you use a lot of water to blend the cassava, it increases the amount of starch being extracted from it. With the help of a strainer and a chiffon cloth, I'm gonna strain out the water. In case you don't have a chiffon cloth, you can use a cheesecloth. While it is draining nicely, I'm gonna continue blending the other cassava with the remaining water until I exhaust the 4 cups of water. At this point, I have already exhausted the 4 cups of water, so I'm gonna reuse the starchy water to blend the remaining cassava. This reduces the possibility of extracting too much starch from the cassava. It is understandable to use a lot of water to blend your cassava, especially when you are blending it at home, but it is a mistake because it is going to extract a lot of the starch from the cassava, and some people might even throw away the starchy water, which is very wrong because that is how starch is being made. Except you are not interested in the starch or you don't have any use for it. But if you have use for the starch, the same way you make garri is the same process you use to make starch. If you have ever seen anyone make garri in large quantity, you will notice that when they take the cassava to the commercial engine, they use little to no water to grind it. And when they are done, most of the starch is still in the cassava. So it is up to the garri maker to extract the starch or leave the starch. That's why you have different types of garri. There are some very starchy garri and there are some that are not starchy at all. Before the cassava is ready for frying, you have to remove most or all of the water from it. So what I'm doing, I'm trying to squeeze out as much water as possible before placing weight on it, and I'm gonna let it sit for 3 days. This will ferment the cassava, which gives it that signature garri taste. And within 3 days, most of the water should be gone. But if you don't want to ferment your garri and you have the ability to extract most of the water within 1 or 2 days, feel free to do that. This is the next day. Besides placing weight on the cassava, you have to also manually squeeze out the water daily. So I'm going to be doing this daily until it is ready for frying. So each day, after squeezing as much water out of the cassava, I'm gonna place back the weights on top of it. So while this is doing its thing, let us take care of the starch. So this is the amount of starch I got from the cassava. I'm just gonna get rid of the water. In as much as I tried not to extract the starch from it, I still got some starch. If I wanted to extract starch from the cassava, trust and believe the amount that I would have gotten from it would be more than what I just got. It would be twice or even 3 times more. That is why I said do not throw away the water you get from the cassava, because that is how you make starch. After spreading it out on a tray, I'm gonna air dry it until it is dried. You can also sun dry it if you want. If you want to turn it into powder, you can either blend it or smoothen it out like this. This is a manual way of doing it. There is this question that I think someone is gonna ask. So before they ask it, let me answer it. Do you have to turn it into powder? The answer is no. If you want to preserve it for a long time, you have to turn it into powder, or you could freeze it. But if you want to use it immediately, there is no need for you to turn it into powder. Just use it to make whatever you want to use it for, especially if you want to make the cooked starch. So back to the cassava. This is the 3rd day. It has lost most of the water. It is no longer wet, so I'm just gonna fluff it before adding the palm oil. So let me use this time to send a very special shout out to all those that have subscribed. You guys are the best. I love you. Thank you and God bless you. When I'm done fluffing the cassava, I'm gonna add some palm oil, a little at a time, mix it in until I get my desired shade of color. If you rub the cassava between your palms like this, it makes the oil blend in well. And while you are mixing, do not forget to get the ones at the bottom. You really don't need a lot of palm oil. A little goes a long way, because by the time you are done frying the garri, the color is gonna be darker than what you started with. Even when you are frying white garri, the final product is always darker. Like I said, add oil to your taste, but always have it at the back of your mind that the final product is gonna be darker. So I am done. I like the color. Let me show you the amount of oil I used. This is the quantity I used. The next step is to filter it. No matter the color of garri you are making, you have to filter it. It is a very important step. You cannot skip it because it helps to separate each flake so that they don't clump together. I'm sure most of you have seen those people that make garri for a living use this wooden filter to filter the cassava flakes before frying it. Well, I don't have that, so this is the next best thing or option, and it works the same way as the wooden filter. Finally done. These are the ones that didn't make it. Look at it, very fluffy. So it is time to fry the garri. I'm gonna start with a small quantity and I'm gonna explain why. Before then, let me say this. I am using my widest pan to fry the garri. It is very important because it gives it a larger surface area and makes the frying process easier. And also as important is the temperature you fry it on. I am frying it on medium heat. You can fry it on low heat, but the medium heat is better. And if you try to fry it on high heat, the pan will be too hot, which will make the cassava stick to the pan and burn quickly. And one other important thing, you should stir it frequently, non-stop, at least at the beginning, so that it does not stick to the pan. Once the first batch dries to an extent, I'm gonna add another one. That's how I'm gonna be doing it until I'm done. So let me use this time to explain to you why I prefer to start with a very small quantity. When you start with a small quantity, it is very easy to control and prevent it from sticking to the pan. And as the first one dries up to an extent, I'm gonna add a fresh one. So the first batch gives the next batch a buffer and prevents it from sticking. So I'm gonna be repeating it like that. When each batch dries to an extent, I'm gonna add fresh one. I know it is gonna take a little bit longer to get it done, but trust and believe me, it solves the problem. If you start with a large quantity, you're gonna struggle and it will continue to stick to the bottom. And if you start a fresh batch after you have removed the other batch that is ready, the pan is too hot and the cassava will stick to the bottom of the pan. It is gonna be a struggle. So to prevent that, it is better to do it the way I'm doing it. When the garri is done, you're gonna know it because you can smell it and the appearance is different. But to be sure it is very dry, you have to feel it with your fingers. It will feel dry like beach sand. It is this type of garri that has a longer shelf life. So the garri is ready. Let me show you the before and after so that you can see the difference in texture and color. The garri is so dry that you can tell from the sound. I'm going to start a new batch. As you can see, I used some of the garri from the previous batch. This is going to give it a buffer so that it does not stick to the pan and makes it easier to fry the next batch without struggling too much. I'm just going to be repeating the same process until I'm done. So this is the last. I'm done. Look at the quantity of garri I got from the cassava. The more cassava you use, the more garri you're going to have. So I'm just going to let it cool before bagging it. Let me tell you why I started making my own garri. Look at the garri they sell here. This is yellow garri or red garri. Look at it. It is not appealing to the eyes. Let me put it side by side with the one I just made. You can see the difference. And the worst part of it, this yellow garri they sell to us is not starchy at all. It's like they extracted all the starch. Look at it. The difference is clear. It is like 7-Up. And you know that homemade food is usually the best because you take extra care to prepare it. With the rate the price of garri is skyrocketing right now in Nigeria, I think it is a smart thing to make your own garri by yourself. Just go and buy cassava and make your own garri at home. It would not be fair to say this is a very starchy garri and not show you what it looks like when you use it to make eba. Is this not the most starchy garri you have ever seen? Look at the eba, draw. So in case you don't know how to make eba, I'm gonna leave the link to the video and other cassava related videos in the description box. You can check them out later if you are interested. So now that you know how to make yellow or red garri, will you give it a try? And if you do, I promise you, you're gonna be so amazed. Because this garri is very starchy and it has a very long shelf life because it is very dry. So thank you guys for watching. Till I see you next time. Stay safe, stay blessed. I love you. Bye.